Hi everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com. How's everybody doing today? Morning. How you guys doing today? It is a very, very chilly day here in the Mid-Atlantic. Hi Janice. It's finally fall for sure. You have to have the heat on. It's definitely crispy, which is fun because it's making me very into making these Thanksgiving and fall and Christmas cards. But my problem is I think I'm like overloaded with Christmas because I just love Christmas. Hi Judy, how you doing? Thanks for joining. I love, love, love Christmas. We listen to Christmas music sometimes all year round in our house, which I know some people might think is a little bit crazy, but we listen to Holiday Traditions on Sirius XM because it's all old-fashioned Christmas music. It reminds me of being young and all that kind of stuff. It's cold here too in New Hampshire, huh? I can imagine. Good morning from New Jersey. Hi Karen. Sandra, thanks all for joining. Hi Ginger from Missouri. How is it down there? Still chilly? I know we've had a really crazy bunch of weather around here lately, so. Hi Cheryl from Calgary, Alberta. Oh, I bet it's chilly there. Snow on the ground. Oh my goodness. I'm jealous. I would love some snow on the ground right now. My friends are probably all thinking, are you nuts? But it would make a really, really awesome Thanksgiving. We very rarely get any snow around here at Christmas, so kind of doesn't, sometimes it makes it feel a little less Christmassy. Thanks for sharing, Janice. So I would appreciate that if you guys share. And while we're at it, I'm going to just tell you a couple things. I'm going to be giving away a Carols of Christmas stamp set today. All you have to do is leave a comment to enter, and if you share it and type shared with a D, because I will search for the word, I'll give you a second entry. So, Carols of Christmas stamp set. This is a really fun set. It actually has a coordinating die, but it's great for adding like a really big addition to your card. It's got a lot of little fun parts to it, the little ornaments and the deer and the poinsettias and all. Super fun. So if you guys leave a comment, I will enter you to win, and I will draw that again. I'll wait till Friday after 5 o'clock, and we'll draw the winner. That way it'll give everybody a good time to enter. Good morning, Cheryl. Hi, Cherie. Thanks for joining. So this is a really fun stamp set. A lot of stuff you can do with this. This makes some great cards, and you can also use the card builder, which I did last week with the lemon lime twist. I actually think I might have that in front of me, believe it or not, which is a miracle in itself. See, this is what we made with this last week. That was one version. And then I made a second. I didn't mount it, so excuse the berry burst in the background, but we did the one with the stars on the top as well. But if you get yourself the dies to go with it, that's something else that you can make using that. So all you have to do is leave a comment, like I said, and I'll enter you to win. So, I'm going to tell you what we're going to be doing today. So, what I had originally envisioned, I'm going to explain, and I think from now on, it's going to just have to be, Rach the Stamper doesn't plan anything in advance, because every time I try to plan something, it's happened now 2 weeks in a row, it goes awry. I think I'm just a better fly by the seat of my pants stamper. So, I'm going to explain what I was going to try to do, and then I'm going to tell you why I think we're going to do a divergence from that. So, I was looking through the catalog when I was at work the other day, and I was trying to figure out like just some different ideas. And a lot of times I'll look at stamp sets and figure out what I want to do, and I want to bring these in so I can show you what I actually did not do. So not that long ago, probably 8 months ago, I made a really cool mirror image card using I think was the Traveler stamp set, and it had a boat. And what I wanted to do was to make a mirror image kind of a card, but instead of like, for example, here's one with a reflection. So this actually uses the stamps, and then you stamp it into a reflection, so it kind of looks like they're drinking from a pool and there's a reflection. Still, in my opinion, needs a little bit of work because I don't think it's wonderful, but I wanted to at least have something to kind of tell you what I was trying to do. However, what I was trying to do was make a mirror image, so we would have like a doe and a deer. And I could start singing now, but I'm going to stop because that just automatically triggers the sound of music. However, with this stamp, the reindeer, I think because it's such a solid image, it is so hard to get it to duplicate. So what you normally do is you would stamp your image. So you stamp your first image onto your cardstock. And then what you can do is you can either use a piece of window sheet, or you can use your Stamp-A-Majig sheet, which is this. So the Stamp-A-Majig, if you're not familiar, is a positioner. So you can use this to position your words if you like to be really precise. I very rarely use it for that purpose. I usually use it for other things, but it is really good at getting precise images. But you also want to make sure that you stamp onto the smooth side if you're making a mirror. So what you would do is you would stamp, and I'm going to just show you, even though we're not going to do this because it's kind of gone so crazy. So you would stamp your image. Just scoot these up out of the way and I'll finish talking about the rest of this in a minute. And let me get just a little scrap. Okay, so you would stamp your image in regular ink, right? So you just stamp like that. And you see, even without really taking your time, it's nice and solid. So then if you wanted to do a mirror image, what you would do is you would either stamp onto your Stamp-A-Majig sheet, but I'm going to show you with the window sheet since it's right here. So then you would ink up your image again. You stamp it. You have to be careful because it is slippery. So you just stamp it onto your window sheet. Okay. So you can already see right here, well, maybe you can't. You can already see right here that it doesn't fully ink it because it's such a solid stamp that when you flip it over to make your mirror and then you push down on it to basically transfer the ink, she looks like she has a problem with her fur. So I tried this about 500 different ways. I even sanded the stamp a little bit because sometimes people will say, and I've read that before, that if your stamp surface is so smooth, sometimes it does pick the ink up a little bit. Unusually is the best way to say it. So I went over it with a really fine sandpaper and then cleaned it off and tried it again. But it just would not transfer any better than this. When I tried a bunch of different papers, you can see all the different deers that I did. So they all just turned out horribly. So I had to abandon this idea for now. Now, one thing I did do, and this would kind of work, and then my only other thing was, obviously we weren't going to have two with antlers because then it looks like they're going to get into a fight. So what you could do is you could mask off the antlers when you ink it with washi tape or any kind of tape, and then you're going to ink it up and then you peel that off so you would have no antlers. So what I did with this one is I actually ended up going in with the blender pen and some ink, and I kind of filled it over with a lighter color, and then I went back over with a little bit of white ink, with the craft white ink, just to kind of smooth it out. And then I went over it with a little bit of Wink of Stella. So this is probably the best one that I got, but still just, it doesn't really, it didn't do it as much as I wanted to. So I thought, well, we're not going to do that idea because same thing that happened last time with me with the letter presses. So anyway, my point is, from now on, I'm going to just, we don't know what we're going to do till we get on here because obviously I must stress myself out too much and I must be able to do things better at the last minute. So I'm going to work on this. Here's one that I did where I did mask off the antlers, but this one just looks awful. So anyway, what we're going to do today, instead of doing that, I thought we could do something different, and I'm going to show you. You guys can pick which set we're going to use. So the other thing I was going to show you is I did do a mirror technique. Now this one is really easy because all you're doing with this is you're stamping your images upside down. So this is really simple. If you're going to do this, let me grab one more little scrap here. So if you're going to do this, what you need to do is you will ink up your stamp. And this one, I love this stamp set. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but this one, I really do like the Merry Mistletoe. It's super fun and cute. But this one with the real images is so pretty. I really love this stamp set. So what you would do is you're going to stamp it. You can even do it with the large reindeer. So you pull your image out. You just figure out which one you want to use. Now when I did the trees and the small deer, what I did is I lined them up how I wanted them. And then obviously this isn't on the correct size block, but that way when I stamped the mirror image and I flipped it over, they would still be lined up, so it would match really, really well. So what you do is you would take your reindeer and you would ink him in, let's say, early espresso. So you would ink him up. Ooh, that's dark. And then all you have to do is, well, this one's not going to work now, is it? Look, I made a liar out of myself. So, oh boy, I'm telling you. What I meant to say was, so you're going to take your window sheet. Now, granted, this is going to be too big, so I'm going to stamp just very gently. So you stamp on your window sheet, and then it seems to work better with the soft line images. And then all you do is you line it up, and you can see right where it is. You line it up right underneath, whoop, and just give a little press. And it makes your mirror image. So then all you have to do is like add your water around it. So he could be like he was standing on the edge of a reflection. This works really, really great too with the Lovely as a Tree stamp set. I have seen a lot of people do that with the trees, like the small group of trees, and then they'll have a lake and then the trees reflecting. That would be a beautiful card if you guys need ideas for like Thanksgiving or fall cards. But so this one worked out fairly well. And the other thing that I've noticed is your ink is never going to be quite as dark. So for me to make one so it would look like they were looking at each other, I'm still going to just have to figure out if maybe there's some other kind of medium that I just haven't figured out yet to use. But anyway, so I'm going to show you guys today, instead of doing that, since I'm not turning out very well with what I want to do, I'm going to show you how to do a, I don't really know what it's called, but I'm going to call it, it's like a spotlight stamped or a spotlight cutout card. So these are really fun, and I will say one thing about them is they're really addictive, and you could use this with pretty much any stamp set. So basically what you do is you stamp an image and then you're going to trim it out a little bit so the image kind of pops right off of the card. Isn't that cool? So you could use so many different stamps for this. So this one, I will tell you one thing, I used the Thick Whisper White for this, and I colored it with the Stampin' Blend, so it kind of bled through a little bit, but honestly, I think it's such a pretty card. I really thought it was nice no matter what. And then the other one I actually did these on a YouTube Live the other day, and something happened with the broadcast. I thought it was live. It wasn't live. Long story short, it wouldn't post, so I had to erase it. So in case anybody was wondering where I went, that's where it was. But I did this one. And then what you do is, so you stamp Mary and Joseph and the donkey, and then you draw a line. I'll show you how to do this. It's really easy. You have a little bit of fussy cutting, so it kind of depends on what stamp set you want to use. And then I just stamped the town at the bottom. I thought this was so pretty. And up here I put this because I made a little smudge with my ink, so I just covered it up. So then I've seen lately a lot of people doing it with the, I always call it Eastern Promises. I don't know, I have that movie in my head for some reason, but with the Eastern Beauty stamp set. So you can make a poinsettia. Now I know this is not the most beautiful poinsettia you've probably ever seen, and honestly, I don't really get poinsettias. We never did because of having pets. So I'm sure you could make one a little bit prettier than this, but this just goes to show you can actually use the dies that coordinate with it to cut part of it out, and then this one will cut out the little flaps that stick up. So this gives so much visual interest. So you could do this on colored cardstock if you want. You could do it just with these, but you could do it just with your stamp. So if you didn't want to have it with this part cut out, you could just stamp it, and it could be flat, and you could trim it out. But it's like a really cool impact, plus you have this weird design. Now one thing about these cards though, they do not stand up. So this would be something like if you gave it to somebody, they would have to lean against something. But I have a lot of cards like that that people send me that aren't handmade Stampin' Up cards, but I know they still love me, and their cards don't stand up. So I have a lot of places where I lean my cards. But anyway, these are some really pretty ones. So I thought we could make one of these today instead, since I had my other idea that just went down the tube. I want to show you two other ideas that I colored, but I didn't go through with putting them on. And these are so fun. I just kind of was playing around with these two. So the beach house from Beachy Little Christmas, and or another great one would be the little tree. I mean, how cute does that look? Now granted, again, I just cut these out, but it looks like little water against the tree. That would be so fun. And then if you want, you can either put your sentiment on the outside here. I've seen it. You can leave this blank so it kind of brings attention to that. And then you can put your sentiment on the inside. For this one, I just heat embossed something. So a lot of fun, different ideas. And I'm going to let you guys decide. You guys can pick what stamp set we use for this. So I'm going to give you a couple that I have out. And then I just want to show you one other thing. I did these the other day, but I never actually did a blog post or tutorial because we have just been having a crazy week and I had to work, so that kind of throws everything off. But I made these two little guys using the scallop punch, and I kind of adjusted them. So this one fits, this isn't like a mini, this is kind of like the second size up York Peppermint Patty. So you could fit that in there. And then this one has a full-size box, and I can't take it out because I made a little bit of a lip of Halloween Tic Tacs in it. So these are great if you wanted to make like some little teacher gifts. All you need is designer series paper. You need the little scallop punch. And then I just trimmed out because I could not bear to throw away the little guys on the other side of this paper here. So I just saved them all, and I've been trimming them out and sticking them on here. And here's another one that I did with a little box. So this was really cute. I just added a little bit of the cherry cobbler stitched ribbon on it. And then I did a little gold punch with the Starburst. I finally called it the right thing. So with the Starburst punch. So this was really, really easy. And this box is super, super easy to create. I'm going to tell you, if I pull this apart, I didn't attach the ribbon. But you could fit a lot of stuff in there. I mean, this is a really good size box. I think it's like 2 3/4. Yeah, 2 3/4 square. So you could fit a lot of goodies in there. A lot of fun stuff. And then you could decorate it, or you could put a sentiment and trim it out if you wanted to. Lots of possibilities with that. So okay, so everybody who just joined in, I'm just want to tell you one more time, welcome. And if you leave a comment, I will enter you to win a Carols of Christmas stamp set, and I will send it out to you. I will draw the winner on Friday at 5. All you have to do to be entered is to leave a comment, and if you leave shared, S-H-A-R-E-D, when you share this video, I'll give you a second entry. Okay, so we can do either Beachy Little Christmas, and we could do the tree or the house, or we could do another poinsettia with the Eastern Beauty. This was really fun. That way you could see how to do the partial die cutting. Or again, you could do the partial stamping. All you have to do is kind of fussy cut it out. And I'm going to try and see if there's any other ones that would be great for Christmas. Oh, you know what would be great? Seasons of Whimsy. That would be super fun. We could do ornament at the bottom. Or we could do another one with Night in Bethlehem, and I could show you guys how to... This was really easy to trim out, even though I know it looks a little crazy, but they were really easy to do. So you got 4 choices here. So I'm going to keep an eye on the comments for a minute and see which one is the winner. Oh, all I've got is several cute ideas. So we have Seasons of Whimsy. We could do an ornament. We could do the beach tree. We could do the beach house. We could do Mary and Joseph. All of them would be really pretty. Ornament. All right, I got 1 ornament and 1 tree. Come on, I know there's more of you on there. Somebody else, Night in Bethlehem. I love that, Janice. Oh, I don't know. Night in Bethlehem is winning now. Eastern. They all are really pretty. And I will tell you one thing. No matter which one we make today, I will put pictures of all of these on my blog, which is rachthestamper.com. When we're done, I'll put those on later today. Thank you for that compliment, Debbie. I appreciate it. Night in Bethlehem. The partial cutting is really, really easy. It really is easy. Even at the end, if we don't end up picking that one, I'll show you how to do it anyway. Eastern. All right, I've got like several Night in Bethlehems. And the tree. And the Eastern. Oh, hi, Kathy. You guys on your way to On Stage? If you are, I'm so jealous. Stampin' Up! Has On Stage. It's this weekend. If you're a demonstrator, you're able to go. It's so much fun. You get to see lots of new things. And you get to see the new occasions catalog before anybody else. It's so awesome. I'm so jealous I'm not going. All right, looks like Night in Bethlehem is winning. So we're going to do Night in Bethlehem. And then when we're finished, I will show you guys how to do this. I'll just show you how to cut it out really quickly because honestly, it's not really very difficult. Okay, so we're going to go with this one. Night in Bethlehem. Let me get all the rest of these guys out of the way. Okay. Ooh, he is super inky. By the way, just as a friendly reminder, if you haven't recently, clean out your Stampin' Scrub I cleaned mine out, and I cannot believe the amount of ink that came out of that sucker. Oh my goodness, it was crazy. And how much your stamp sets actually do not get cleaned when you're cleaning them with the dirty Stampin' Scrub. So make sure you get on top of that. All right. What we're going to do here, so I have a piece of, nope, this isn't. I grabbed the wrong one. I have a piece of, nope, this isn't it either. I'm sorry. I'm getting a piece of Thick Whisper White because it will hold up a little bit better. So piece of Thick Whisper White. This is a full sheet. We're just going to cut it at 4 1/4. And you probably could do this as a horizontal card as well. I just haven't tried one yet. All right. So this could go 2 ways. You can keep your trimmer handy if you want to, because you can trim this with that, or you can just trim it with scissors. Karen, you just clean yours too. I know it was so disgusting. I will tell you one thing. It definitely takes a really long time for it to dry, especially when it's filthy. Maybe that's the thing, is I just need to clean it more often, and then it won't be so bad. All right, so what we're going to do first, just because we're going to get rid of it anyway, we're going to cut the bottom off. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp. I don't think that fits on there. I'm going to stamp the town on the bottom. And what I did, when I did it on my other card, I did it in smoky slate, just so it will be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to do that again, but I also stamped it off first. And then I'm going to bring out the stars and the Christmas star, just in case I make a goof and I need to fix it. All right, so here is going to be our card base. So for the inside, I'm going to stamp the town. You could probably do this too if you wanted to do this without the angles, which would be a really neat idea. And let me tell you, let me stamp this first and then I'll tell you. So if you didn't want to have this as an angle cut, what you could do is you could stamp and then cut out your town, but it'd be at the bottom, so it could be like a peek through, but it would just be a little bit different of a card. But that would be really really easy to do, and just give like a whole nother set of just visual interest to your card. So that'll be really fun. So what do I use to clean? Water. I just actually run it under the sink. So you pop out these little scrubby things here. They pop out fairly easily, and then I just rinse it under the sink. I've done it once before with soap, like a tiny drop of soap, but I'm going to tell you, it took so much effort to get that soap out that honestly I usually just do it with water. Sometimes I add like a tiny bit of dish soap to it, but mostly just water. Okay, so now what we're going to do is add in Joseph and Mary, and I did these in navy just so it's kind of like a shadow walking across. I thought it was kind of pretty that way. So I'm going to bring these guys up. And now when you do this card, you can either, where are my examples? I've seen them done before where they do it where it's to the left or in the center or to the right. So it kind of just depends on what you want to do. So this one before I did kind of to the left, so I'm going to do this one to the right instead. Doesn't really make any bit of difference. It's just where you want to trim it. Just make sure that doesn't have any. So we're just going to stamp our image down near the bottom. Okay, and that didn't fill in completely all the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take, well, I have it just my, this is just my Night of Navy marker, and I'm going to just fill it in, just so it's a little bit darker before I trim it out. Probably just need to re-ink my stamp pad. You never realize how much ink you use until you're doing something live and it doesn't fill in correctly. I think I also just don't give myself enough credit for how many cards I actually make, and I don't think I make that many. Same thing with the Stampin' Scrub. That's probably why I didn't clean it, because I don't realize how much stuff I make. Okay, so we're gonna put this away so I don't ruin it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and stamp these little, I'm gonna stamp the star, and I'm gonna stamp the tiny stars, but I think I'm gonna emboss the star, because I think that'll be pretty. So we'll do that with, I'm going to do that with the champagne that I mixed. So this is gold and silver embossing powder mixed together, and it kind of turns into a champagne. So I'm going to do that. And just grab a little scrap here so I can catch my embossing paper, my embossing powder. All right, so I'm going to do the little stars in Soft Sky first. And I know this sounds a little backwards, but let me explain. So I'm going to do these first, and then I'll go over them with a little bit of, make sure that's clean, a little bit of the embossing buddy. So I'm going to just put these kind of above. I kind of turn it around so nothing's really in the same direction. And you can put these as light or as dark or as far up as you want. And just for doing something different, we'll go up a little bit higher than I did on the last one. Okay, so you have your little stars. Now I'm going to take my embossing buddy and I'm going to just go over the top of this just to make sure all this is dry. And if you're worried about this getting on your navy, when you're finished with it, you can go over it with like a Swiffer duster cloth and it'll get the rest of it off. So you don't have to worry about it ruining the darkness of your card. So now I'm going to do the Christmas star. I'm going to stamp this in some Versamark. And we'll just put it right above. Okay, and then I'm going to dump this is my combo. So this makes like a champagne embossing powder. So it's just gold and silver mixed. I would say equal parts, but honestly, I probably just eyeballed it. So, okay, let me dump this. And if you get any little smudgy spots, let me show you. There's a couple of them on here. You can either use a tiny, tiny paintbrush or just your finger and just brush them off. Just like that before you heat emboss. Okay, so I'm going to just heat this up. Oh, really pretty. I will say one thing consistently. I think I've used heat embossing for the past like 5 lives that I've done. Which is kind of funny, but so pretty. Super, super pretty. The other thing you could do is you could take your Wink of Stella and you could like draw some sparkle lines down, just leading. But I don't want to get too much into it because I still have to trim. Okay, so that will just give like a little bit of sparkle, like the beams flowing down. Okay, so now what we're going to do, let me just move a couple of these things out of the way so I don't ruin anything. So you're going to take your paper snips. First of all, I'm getting ahead of myself. You have to cut this out, but we have to decide where we want it. So again, this isn't really this complicated. I just did it this way to kind of make it slightly easier. So to get a square, and on this last one, let me just show you again where I did this. You kind of decide how much. You could make this so it's much more, so it went really kind of to the back of Mary's veil. With these angles, it really just depends on how much you want to trim. So if you wanted to trim less, you could kind of bring it down to the donkey's feet. So then you'd only have to go like a little bit around the bottom, but it really just depends. So I'm going to bring mine up a little higher into the front of the robe. And then I'm going to bring it a little bit closer to the donkey's butt when I do it. So what I did is I'm kind of just eyeballing. And I'm going to put just like a teeny mark over here. And a teeny mark over here. Let me go up just like that. Okay, and again, so what you could do now is you could just take your scissors if you want, and you can just cut an angle to it. So like that. Or you can take your trimmer. Now, if you take your trimmer, you just have to be a little bit more careful. Take your trimmer, and you're going to kind of add your angle. So let's see, right there. And my mark is like way off of where I started. So you take your trimmer, and you kind of just go and just see where you run into his butt. You don't want to cut into it, so if you do, just make sure you're very careful when you trim, and then you'll just do the opposite here. So it's a little bit hard, probably because the donkey is a little unusual to cut near. Okay, so what I did is I just trimmed those 2 pieces here, and then, whoops, this one, I didn't even get all the way to the edge on. And then all we're going to do is just fussy cut around. So you just take your Stampin' trimmer. I just want to trim this little bit here. Okay, and so it's easier to do the smoother parts first. So you're just going to follow up, and you don't want to leave any white rim. So if there's ever a case where you trim and you kind of leave an outline, this isn't it. So even if you trim off a little bit into the navy, it's better. That way you won't have any white showing. So that way when your card is closed, it will stick out a little bit more, like color pop wise against it. And then we're going to just trim up here to the donkey. And honestly, I think I'm one of those people that really doesn't mind fussy cutting, but really in the grand scheme of things, this really isn't too much to cut. And if you didn't like this set, you could always use one that was a little bit easier. Or, as I said, you could kind of go so you're a little bit closer down here to the bottom, and that way you don't have as much to trim. So I'm going to just finish this. I promise it won't take very long. And so in the meantime, all of my fellow Team Stamp It Stampers are probably on their way to Salt Lake City. I know today is Elizabeth Thatcher's birthday, so happy birthday. You get to probably spend the rest of your birthday weekend in Salt Lake City, which is awesome. I'm sure it's freezing there, but I'm going to be really careful not to cut the donkey's tail off because I cut that a teeny bit too far. So I don't want to cut off his tail. Let me just trim this foot in a little bit. If you had ever thought that you would want to go to a convention, everyone is invited. That is a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I would love for you to be part of my team if that's something that you would want to do. To get a starter kit, you get to pick anything you want in the catalog. You get to pick $125 worth of stuff for $99. You can pick anything. You can pick the Stampin' Blends if you wanted to. And they send it to you free shipping. You get to be added to my group, which is awesome. We do a lot of really fun things. We do blog hops and card swaps and share all kinds of awesome ideas. Plus, you get a discount on everything you buy with Stampin' Up! As long as you are an active demonstrator. And I have done this almost, believe it or not, for 2 years now. All right, I'm at a really serious part here. I don't want to cut this off. 2 years in January. What I decided was that I was going to become a demonstrator as my birthday present to myself. What a good present, huh? So I finally jumped on board. How cool, look. See, that really wasn't that difficult. Really, really wasn't that hard at all. But I finally jumped on board, and I'm so glad I did, because now I get to spend all this time with you guys making really cool stuff. So, super simple. And then you have this really pretty card. Now, another thing, if this isn't really wowy enough for you, you could always trim it down a little bit, and then I backed this onto Night of Navy, kind of makes it pop a little more, so that's another thing you could do. Another way you could do it as well is by adding, so instead of this being here, you could put a navy panel in here, and you could emboss this in Champagne to match, and then you could just put a little small white panel up here. That way you'd have somewhere to write. You could put your greeting on the inside instead, so I think we'll do that on the inside for this one since we put all these little stars. But this looks really cool. So this is a totally different scheme. Now, if you can't, I don't know if you can see on this, but I did do the little wink of Stella on this as well. And on this one, I kind of did it more so it's falling down. It might not really show up on here. Wink of Stella sometimes is a little hard to see, but it really looks cool because it looks just like the beams are leading them. Or another idea is you could stamp your star up top and then draw your little beams down like the star's actually leading them to the manger. So you could really get authentic with it if you wanted to, which is really cool. This is a beautiful stamp set. I really, really like it. I really hope it carries over. But embossing this in the champagne would be a great idea as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to just put a sentiment on the inside. And how about we'll do this big one, because I don't think I've used this one yet. So we'll use this one. And then we'll add just a few more little stars to it. Let's see, kind of a smaller block for this one. And we're going to stick with the navy. That way it kind of has a little bit of cohesion to the card. But this is one of my, this has a really pretty coordinating stamp set, or I should say die set as well. So here will be a great time for me to use my Stamp-A-Majig. So how about if I show you how to use that in case you don't know how to use it. So when you do your Stamp-A-Majig, you just want to make sure that your stamp is kind of centered in the corner. So I'm going to show you how to use this in case there's somebody on here that doesn't know how to use a Stamp-A-Majig, because honestly I didn't know how to use it either. I kind of figured it out on my own because it was so many years ago when they first came out. So what you do is, And you don't have to stamp it on here, but I'm going to stamp it just to show you. So you stamp your image onto the Stamp-A-Majig, right? So you put it in the corner. So you put your clear paper into the corner of your Stamp-A-Majig. Then you stamp your image on in the corner. And then what you do is you kind of figure out, where do you want it? Do you want it down here? Do you want it in the middle? Do you want it up top? So we'll put ours in the middle. So if you figure if that's centered to how you like it, then what you do is you come back, make sure it's straight. You put your Stamp-A-Majig back there so it meets the corner. You move this thing out of the way. You make sure your stamp is nice and inked up. And then you just put it straight down. Oh, of course, mine didn't come out clear. But since I didn't move it yet, I'm going to just stamp it again. So make sure that I press. So it's just darker. There's no blur to that. It's just a darker stamped image because I stamped it in the same place twice using the Stamp-A-Majig. So that's another good trick in case you ever goof something up with your sentiment and then you're like, man, now I have to throw this whole card away, which you don't. Even if this was really messed up and I really screwed it up and I blurred it, what you could always do is two things. You could then cover this panel with a whole nother white or like a navy sheet and a white sheet. So you're also like you're making a frame for it. So you could cover it up. If you're doing it where you haven't put the inside in yet, you can always flip it over. So there's lots of options. So if you were to have messed that up, just kind of work with your mistake. That happens to me all the time. So anyway, here's what this one looks like as opposed to the first one. I do kind of like it backed onto the navy. I think it looks really pretty that way because it kind of just gives a little something extra. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this up and add it to that. So I'm going to just take off the end. So I'm going to move this about 1/4 of an inch down. And even though it cuts the houses off a little bit, that's okay. And then I'm going to trim on this side just to trim it down a little bit. So I made this just 1/4 inch smaller. And then I think I already have a piece here cut. It should fit perfectly. Yep. So then all you're going to do is just mount it right onto this. And I think it just gives a little bit more of a definition to it. So I'm going to just put this on with some fast fuse. Because sometimes, I mean, it depends, but sometimes a white on white card is a little hard to pull off. Just all white. So very, very pretty. Completely different. No sentiment on this one. And then this one is on the inside, but equally very, very pretty. So let me show you before we go, let me show you how to cut out the other one. Agree with the backing. Yeah, the backing on the navy, it just kind of makes the card pop a little bit more, I think. I mean, I think it's pretty on the white, but I think on the navy it makes it a little bit prettier. Okay, so let me show you how to do the other one. And this one, I believe this is called Birthday Blooms. This was a really pretty one to color. And I know a lot of people might be a little worried about the stem. But this has been manhandled a lot here. Oh, it's not even in the view. Sorry about that. This has been manhandled a lot, and this stem has not come off. So I think this would be a really pretty card to do as well. So let me show you how to do the other one. I have my Big Shot right here next to me. Let me just clean all this stuff out of the way, and we'll do one more with this one. That way you can see how to cut out the partial die cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the other half. So this is again a piece of thick Whisper White. It's 11 by 4 1/4. So we just need to score this and then decide what color. I know poinsettias come in a multitude of colors. So I think the first one I did in real red. But I'm fairly certain they come in pink as well. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do Cherry Cobbler because Cherry Cobbler really is my favorite color. Christmas color, I should say. I don't really hugely love red. I like red, but I really like the Cherry Cobbler better. So we're going to do that. So let me move just a few of these things out of the way so I don't ruin anything. And we'll bring this over. Okay, so what you can do, again, you can do it with the stamped images and the die cut. You could do it with just the die cut if you wanted to, and it would kind of just be like white peeking through. But what I think we're going to do first is on this one, what I did is I stamped the red and then the yellow. So I think I'm going to build it the opposite way this time. So I am going to still stick with crushed curry, just that way it stands up against the Cherry Cobbler. So again, all you kind of have to do is figure out where you want your card to be. So we'll do this one on this side down here instead. So we'll put our center there. Let's see. And then I kind of did a couple little, I don't know what you want to call them, like doodad sparkles. I don't really even know. It's like a faded flare of, it's very pretty. I don't really know what that's called, but anyway. So we're going to do this in cherry cobbler, but I'm going to stamp this off first. That way it's light. So I'm going to just kind of stamp this in. I'm going to do all 4 corners. It kind of almost, you know, this would make a really cool looking butterfly too. So we'll stamp that. Okay. Hopefully this is going to turn out looking remotely cute. And now I'm going to stamp, so the outline of the poinsettia in full cherry cobbler. And this one, I think I'm going to make it more so, even though this has a 6 point, I'm going to make it more so there's one straight down at the bottom. So that's the great part about photopolymer is you can line everything up. You can see straight through. Okay, so there's your poinsettia. And there's so many little things in here. I mean, you have like all these little, not like a fleur-de-lis, but these really pretty, you could add so many more things to this. And it would just be beautiful. You could even add, like this is a little bit of a leaf in the background. Lots of possibilities with this. One other note, I digress. Somebody made a really cool snowman with these two. So they stamped them in black. This was the top, this was the bottom. Really, you could go for 3 if you wanted to. But they made a really cool snowman out of these. You could use these as the buttons. So if you don't have this stamp set, or if you do and you ran out of ideas for it, you could make a lot of cool stuff with this. Snowman would be great. Ellie... Welcome, Ellie. If you just got here, whoever hasn't, make sure you leave a comment and you'll be entered to win. But this is a really versatile stamp set. I never would have thought to use this for a poinsettia. Again, I saw somebody had this on Pinterest. And the snowman was a really cool idea. I can't remember who did that one. That one definitely was a neat one. All right, so I'm going to move all this out of the way just so I don't wreck my cards. All right, so I have my two dies. Now this one is a partial cut. It does not cut out the center. So you can actually run this all the way through your big shot and it's not going to cut it to erase it. So we're going to do to cut it out. We're going to do this one first and then I'll show you how to do the partial. So let me grab my big shot. Move as much stuff out of the way here as possible so I don't have a malfunction. So we're going to run this through first. Let me put this so at least you can see it. You know what? I'm going to have to turn it this way so I can crank. So we're going to run this through first. And this is going to be the whole way. Okay, so this you can put the whole thing over. You put your whole pad on and everything. And you run it through. Because again, it's just a partial cut. There are a lot of thinlets and stuff that sometimes you're like, what the heck is this for? And quite honestly, until I actually did this, I didn't know what it was for either. So these pop through, so then you can have these little pop-ups. I'm not going to pop them all up because we are going to cut. So now we're going to kind of do this backwards. Okay, so I'm going to take this and put it out of the way. Now we have this. So this is the one that's going to cut it out. So you're going to put this around just like you want it. You can always use like a little piece of washi tape or post-it note. I think I have a post-it here handy to hold this in place if it makes you feel better, or if your cutting pads are a little warped, which pretty much always happens to mine. So I'm going to just put this right up here. And so you remember, you only want to cut the bottom, okay? Because if not, we're going to cut the whole thing out and then it kind of will be a completely different card. So you just want to cut the bottom. So what you're going to do is you're going to move your card base up, and we're going to just put this kind of like right here. Okay, so we're going to just cut out these bottom 3 and we're going to roll this through. And it's not going to make a whole lot of noise because it's only got a little teeny place that it needs to make contact with. And then, so when you take your little post-it off and you take this off, so it's cut around the edges here. Okay, so now you just have to make your little trim marks. And I'm going to show you. So again, if you don't want to do this with your trimmer, you can also do it with your scissors. You can also completely avoid using the pencil if you don't want to use it. So what you would do is you could just take your scissors and kind of figure your angle. and cut. And then this one is easy because it's already cut for you. So you could do this with just a teeny hair that I missed there. You could do this with any stamp set that has a die. So there's one. And then for this one, since it's a bigger one, I'm going to go up a little bit higher. So I'm going to cut right here. Oh, a little piece of that caught. And there you go. So look how easy that was. Simple. And then you have all your little pops that pop out here. Come on. One more. So super easy. Really, really fun. A whole new way for you to use all those dies that you have and you bought and you can't remember what you were going to do with them. So now you could make a whole bunch of poinsettia cards. Do the same thing. Now you could back this. You could do this one vanilla if you wanted to. Very vanilla would be really pretty as well, because then it would almost give you that more of a, there's like a more vanilla poinsettia that, it's like vanilla, and sometimes it'll have even a little red on the tips. But it's another cool idea that you can use this. So you can use your Eastern Beauty stamp set to create poinsettias. So another great idea for Christmas cards. And these would be really easy because all you would do is you could stamp all your stuff, and then you could cut all your round pieces, and then you could cut all your partials, and then you could just trim them all. I mean, you could really make a lot of Christmas cards really, really quickly. So anyway, this is my, and again, this is the thick Whisper White, so sometimes it takes a little more to get it to stay flat. But this is my idea from Mirror Imaging Stamping, which went to this, and I am sorry that I didn't do the idea that I originally had on there, but I think this was much more fun and maybe hopefully more useful to you guys. But you could always back it, like if you have some little scraps left over of designer series paper, you could put this, now granted I know this isn't even, but you could put this at the bottom. You could put designer series paper and then another panel on the inside to jazz it up a little bit. You could emboss something out here in gold, because gold and poinsettias I think looks really pretty together. I'm particularly a silver person, but I think gold with the both of the poinsettias looks really, really pretty. And then when, you know, New Year's comes and you're out sad making Christmas cards anymore, then you can make your friend a birthday card or thinking of you card. And here's another couple really pretty ideas that you could do with the Beautiful Night in Bethlehem set. But let me just grab real quick. I want to show you one thing, because I have them here. So my point about that whole thing was, if I can find them, you could do this with the houses, the hometown edgelets. That'll be really fun, because then you could cut the bottom of them off as well. That'll be cool. So what you could do with these, and this one comes with two. So there's two different ones. You could have two different sizes. I love this set. I actually made, this is a different one that I made. This is, again, digression. What I did is I cut both of them white, and then I kind of reversed them. So this is white on Fresh Fig, and then Fresh Fig on white. But what you could do is you could trim this from here instead. Now, you would probably need to either make a decision if you wanted to cut part of it off, or if you wanted to make it this way instead. But you could trim it like this, and then just when you do the partial cut, you would just put your cutting plate from here, or I should say, from like here down. So it would cut the bottom of it out. And then the other thing you could do is you could go over this with your silicone mat, and it would leave like the embossed impression on that. I'm going to have to work on that. That would be a really fun card to do. I think like a completely different use. Again, like another use for your thinlets. Because, you know, sometimes you buy, I know I even do it, that you buy something and then you can't remember what the heck you bought it for or what it was that you intended to buy it for, which is why Pinterest is so awesome. Because if not, you can always find ideas. Pinterest, and then a lot of times too, I'll Google stuff. That's how I used to find stuff long before Pinterest came along. I would just Google whatever stamp set it was. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this today, and I hope that I've given you a lot of information, maybe some things that you didn't know or technique that you didn't try. And again, I still am going to try to figure out something for that that reindeer, because I thought it'd be really cute to have the two reindeer kissing under the mistletoe. That was the goal of what I wanted to make with that card, but oh well, that's life. So thanks guys for watching. As always, I will be back again next week at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time with, I have no idea what I'm going to do, because I'm going to just go with that from now on. We'll find out what I make when I make it, so I don't have these glitches. Maybe next week will be like the most amazing card I've ever made on here, and you guys will be cheering like throngs of thousands of fans. Ah! I know I'm getting ridiculous. I'm thinking about Moana. And I need more coffee, clearly. So thank you all for joining today. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure you leave a comment, and I will enter you to win the Carols of Christmas stamp set, and I will draw for that on Friday. And if you share this broadcast and you type in shared, S-H-A-R-E-D, I will enter you a second time, so you'll have 2 entries. And I would love for you guys to share this with your friends. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, because then it will tell you when I'm actually live, so hopefully you don't miss me. And you can also follow me along on YouTube and on Pinterest and on Instagram and on Facebook at Rachthestamper. If you want to get any of these supplies and more in my online store, all you have to do is go to www.rachthestamper.stampinup.net. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you back next week. I hope you have an awesome week, and be nice to each other.